We finally made it down the Cape. Been a year in the making to sit down with Stu Forstrom, the OG of OGs when it comes to Nike engineering.
It was a fun time to be at Nike in the early days.
There is nothing I've ever seen that even comes close to this collection as far as historical pieces, and from the guy that helped have a piece in the creating all of them. What's good, Super G fam? Most of the technology you see in Nike shoes, Nike basketballs, a lot of their pieces, the technologist lives right here. So we're gonna go in, chop it up with Stu. Again, a year we've been putting this together to try to get him to meet with us, but also to see his workshop. So come on, we're gonna meet Stu. Stu.
Jonathan.
Hey, it's nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, no kidding, man. It's been a long time since we started chatting, probably about a year or so.
I can't tell you how excited I am. So where should we sit down?
Let's probably sit around the kitchen table. It's probably a good place to start.
Really appreciate you taking the time to have us come over today. We're really excited to go downstairs to your workshop and kind of see historically all the things you've done while you've been or at Nike. I know just from doing a preview, I was really blown away with some of the collection, but I think it's really important to tell the stories of people that were with these major life-changing, industry-changing brands from the get-go. And from the first conversation we had over a year ago, I knew once we could figure out a time to get together, it would just be so interesting to the people that end up watching these pieces to hear your experiences growing Nike, while you were based in New Hampshire as one of their first employees at a period in time where you helped develop some of the most iconic shoes that people still today love and wear. So we're going to go downstairs. I'm going to follow you down, and we're going to kind of see what's going on in the magic world as org shop.
Sounds good, man.
All right, let's do it.
All righty. Yeah, I don't think I paid for any poster in my life. So they came out of the dumpster.
These are crazy.
This was the early snowboarding when Nike got involved in snowboarding. This is signed by Phil Knight. This is my 30-year deal.
Unbelievable. You know, every man needs a workshop, but this is way beyond a workshop. This is like a complete piece of history. I've seen a lot of people's collections that were absolutely overwhelming from just a sheer number size. There is nothing I've ever seen that even comes close to this collection as far as historical pieces, and from the guy that helped have a piece in the creating all of them. So we'll get busy on that. Tell me what it means to be Nike Air, because you were there from the beginning. So there's a lot of different Nike Air products here, but you know, what did that mean back in Exeter, New Hampshire when it started to evolve?
So back in the Exeter days, Nike Air was kind of just starting up. They had a plant. It was kind of a secret little plant up in Saco, Maine, where these RF dyes were shipped from California. We had special radio frequency welding machines and out of New York, Long Island area. And basically, Nike Air started in what they call flat film. You take two pieces of flat film, TPU material, you weld them together with a pattern, and you inflate them and you seal them. In the early days of Nike Air, it was a monolayer TPU material, and we used what they called a large molecule gas called SF6, sulfur hexafluoride, okay? Later on, as the whole Air revolution took off, the gas and the material got changed for multiple reasons. But after flat film, came Visual Air, what we call VA. Visual Air was like the first Air Maxes, and that was a tubular piece of polyurethane.
So what are those?
These are a pair of the original Air Max airbags.
So those are original?
These are original.
And what year would that be?
It's a late 80s, early 90s. This was kind of a Tinker Hatfield, I'm pretty sure, and a Mark Parker kind of go, because it was the first time Nike put air into a window of a shoe.
Right.
Everything in the early days of VA were what they call fully encapsulated. This was Nike got involved in the pump shoe. If you remember, Reebok did a thing with, I think the Celtics player was D. Brown.
D. Brown, yeah.
And
the Reebok pump. He went like this. Yep. And dunked at the All-Star game.
And the history behind that is interesting. Nike had the rights to doing pump shoes before Reebok, but it was when D. Brown, I don't remember, it was an All-Star game or something, or a slam dunk contest.
Slam dunk competition.
Where he went down and pumped his shoe, and after that, Nike decided to, Reebok was doing a lot of marketing on their pump stuff, and Nike decided to get out of it. But prior to getting out of it, they did a shoe, this shoe here, which is called the Air Pressure. And the Air Pressure had
and these have never been used.
This pair has never been worn. They had a single pump, and you pump the back of it. My involvement was all around the valve mechanism and stuff like that. The shoe, I was not involved with the shoe other than making sure our pump and the valve
and these
system.
Did come to market, or they didn't?
Yeah, they did.
They did come to market. So with the Velcro collar.
This is an original pair. As you can see, I wore these, but you could.
Yep, there's the valve that you were involved with.
What makes this interesting in my career is the fact that I worked on the original shoe in Oregon, and then, I don't know if it was 10, 15 years later, when they repopped it again, I worked on the new one. So
they just called you back up?
Well, yeah, we were doing the part of it, and it was just one of those things where I had all the information on it, and we were able to go to market pretty fast, like because of the.
And this was a sample, or this was one you wore?
I wore this too. This was called the Air Command Force, and the people that are out there remember David Robinson wore this. And this was a two-way pump. You'd pump one, and the pump system's in here. You'd pump this, and it would pump the collar. And then if you turned it the other way, it would pump the arch area. And then there's a simple little release valve. So again, my involvement on this shoe was all the injection molding and the blow molding around the pump system and the valve. And of course, the aerosol facility in Oregon, we made the airbags, the VA bags for that. So,
I mean, just to the fact that I'm holding this and then you explaining the technology that you had your hand in is making me lightheaded, or it might be the air in the shoe.
This was a shoe we worked on again in Exeter. For people that know, we did the outsole and the midsole, and it's called the Air Epic. And this was interesting. The rubber on the outsole was developed by a couple chemists, one in Taiwan and one up in co-developed with one in Exeter. And it was like an expansion foam. So I still remember the gentleman when he said they couldn't believe. So you would make a mold that was this big, but your part came out this big. So they had like a 1.5 growth rate. So we did a size 15 that came out looking like a tennis racket, just falling around. And again, we had the equipment to do it. And stuff in Exeter. Exeter, New Hampshire was the R&D facility that had the CAD CAM stuff. It had a PU lab, a rubber lab, a sample room, and we also had the prototype air department there, as well as designer and developers.
Let's talk about your involvement in these shoes, because I think everyone who's watching this when we finally edit, they're going to know what these are. But this is a historical shoe.
This is Air Max 95. Again, this is during the time of Big Air. Okay, as I talked about the revolution of Nike Air. Again, flat film, two pieces of film together, welded. VA, which was a tubular piece, welded, and then we got into what was called blow molding. The original Air Max 95 had an engraved on the window 25.5 psi, okay? And that's,
PSI is?
Pounds per square inch.
Okay.
Okay, and it was kind of a marketing thing. Again, I was only involved with the airbag side of it and making the machinery to inflate them. But what happened was there was a lawsuit, to my knowledge, brought against Nike saying that the bags aren't 25.5 PSI. They are actually lower than that. Well, the guys around Nike Air knew it wasn't a strict 25.5. It's like 20 and maybe 2.5. Well, apparently, I think there was a lawsuit. I never heard any more after that because somebody got injured and running or whatever. And so we had to do literally almost overnight, weld the molds, remachine them, and
take off the 25.
Yeah, and it was done on this, and I think it was done on a full-length running bag. These are an original.
So this
these
is
are
an
OG.
original. These are original pairs.
Yep.
So I mean, today you'll go onto Nike's app and you'll see 50 different variations of this shoe, which Stu had a hand in, but this is the original. You know, it's literally penned in what size they are. You know, Nike back in the day was known for new technology all the time. Like, what are they up to next? Like, I mean, the designs kept taking fresh approaches and advancing shoe technology. So there's so many pieces here. Is there anything that you can look at and say, I was really proud of this because it kind of broke the mold, or, you know, we had to really rethink how we're going to do something?
One of the things we got involved in, and I was heavily involved in, is Nike's launch, and we're in the 90s now. Ear is a big thing. Every category at Nike wants ear. They want big ear. They want big visible ear, and we got a lot of things coming at us at once. The one thing that we couldn't do was make it in mass production. So one of the projects I was on, you know, it was like, there was like 3 of us, was to make a machine that could inflate the blow molded bags, index them, weld them off, seal them, you know, and then trim them, okay? Well, that was fine when you're doing a couple 100,000 pair. Now we're getting into big volumes. So when you start scaling this thing up, these little machines, you know, a little 4 index machine can't do it, okay? So I was sent, again, went to New York and sat down with the owner of a company called K-Bar. I personally, calling back and forth to Beaverton, made the deal on a handshake that we will buy X amount of machines, you know, from this company just to get it going before waiting for all the paperwork and the lawyers to get involved and things like that. We knew these airbags were coming at us, so we had to be ahead of the game to make sure we had the equipment to make the airbags. We were heavily involved with the TPU cage, you know, in the full-length window. These are prototypes.
So you'd bring them back to Oregon to show them, and they'd be manufactured.
Nope, we bring them back to Oregon, and they go out. They would go through the Nike lab, and with the Nike wear testers, they go out and see how well the shoe did.
Okay, so they tested the technology.
Yeah. So as we're defining or redefining the airbag side, and maybe the design developers defining, you know, the upper, they already got shoes out on wear tests. How is this going to get perceived in the world later on?
So you'd fly overseas, put it together, bring it back, have it tested, get it blessed or not, might have to go back overseas, might have to come back again, then once it was blessed, go to manufacture.
Yep. These are air shocks. There, you know, again, there was a lot around the whole air shocks program. The original shocks had an injection molded plate. You looked right through it. It didn't have any air into it. Of course, later on they go, well, if they could do it this way, let's put air.
So wait, these shocks did have air?
These are air shocks, but the original shocks didn't have air. They were like a special material puck. They were like little pucks.
Because I remember when these originally came out, and I think as a consumer, at least from my perspective, I was a little skeptical of how they would feel.
Yeah.
So were these well received, or it took time?
I don't think these ever really took off. That's my personal point of view. We didn't do a lot of volume in it. You know, they were there. The benefit of Zoom Air to most people is that it's a low profile cushioning system.
Okay.
So it doesn't have all the little holes to like a flat film in a VA bag has, you know, to hold the geometry. It's basically a very planar bag, and so underfoot you could really feel the air. Where the big air stuff, the big blow molded bags and stuff, that was, you know, just a different feel. There's a Air Max
17.
Yeah, it was 2017, And
I've never seen this shoe ever before.
I don't think you ever will either. There's only 2 pairs made. Maybe I made 3, I don't remember. But this is a Nike airbag. And what we did was we found a company in China and we plated it. And we were just fooling around with it. You know, again, we were able to do things like that in the old days without getting your hand slapped. And yeah, we made a couple pair. I had a pair.
And this was a new technology, the Flywire?
Yeah, this shoe was in production, but with a clear airbag or with a DCS airbag.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a production upper, a production airbag, but just with a coating put on it. I walked around in mine for a long time, and what happened was it all cracked and all that. But this is probably the only pair left out of the 3 that's never been worn.
I pulled some shoes that I thought were super impressive from a collector standpoint and put them on a table over here. So I just wanted to kind of quickly go over these too, because there's a lot of,
Sure.
we say in the sneaker collector world, a lot of heat. So first caught my eye, the Air Force 1 Low Travis Scott dead stock. So what do I mean by that? They've never been worn in their original box with everything. You can go on StockX or wherever and see what these sell for. These are just sitting in storage. The Nike swooshes come off, these are Velcro. So this was the first Travis Scott shoe. This is a historical piece that is part of your collection. We start to go to the oddities, the ones we've never seen before. Stu, this Nike SB, this is from Nike Vietnam for a 20th anniversary event.
That didn't happen because of COVID.
So this was created for an event in Vietnam and then didn't happen because of COVID. So this shoe never made it to market, was never used.
Yep. Nike SB, you know, for skateboarding, one of the big leaders in that had a lot to do with the whole skateboarding and Nike was a gentleman named Sandy Bodecker.
Yeah.
I was blessed to work with Sandy in the Exeter days, and we became, you know, good friends over the years. He is long gone, but he was definitely another one of those true pioneers for Nike and Nike SB, and just a cool dude.
Tell me a little bit about these if you know anything. I mean, I've never seen these shoes before. These 2013, so was this done for an Olympic year or was this to commemorate something?
Again, I forget a tons of things. The factory I was working with and embedded with the Nike Air is a factory called Fung Tai out of Taiwan, and they were big in the Air Force One shoe. So a lot of times that they did a weird shoe, I don't know, they would just give me a pair.
So so there's like 4 different types of reptile reproductive skin on it. All right, tell us about this, because we looked at this shoe and, you know, tell us a little bit about how this came to be.
Again, these individuals had to visit the aerosol factory, I would say, in Beaverton, because they didn't come to China or Vietnam. And I don't remember getting them signed, but somebody got them signed and they ended up in my office, maybe because of the airbag or whatever.
Some of the signatures, I know Tony, who's off camera.
Yeah, this G. Ken.
So do you have a little bit of color on some of these people?
Yeah, so G. Ken is one of the largest sneaker collectors in the world. And then some of those look like artists as well, too, who are also big sneaker collectors.
Okay, this is one of the original Air Forces.
Well, it wouldn't be an original Air Force, but it was an Air Force One made in Taiwan. I'm pretty sure this logo has to do with their automatic shoe assembly line, and they did a big launch on that. Again, labor was always the big thing. How do we reduce labor? Yeah, this was a project later on in my career. This is an ambient airbag.
And this is called the 2018 Blow Ramp Air?
Yep. I'm sure some sort of iteration went to market, but this was one of the early prototypes. There was a project. It was kind of for people that used to run but aren't running anymore, but they still wanted a kind of a lightweight cushioning type of shoe.
The Chris Pauls. I
I
mean,
didn't even know I had those.
yeah, no, Tony just found these. So I'm assuming most people know who Chris Paul is. But this is a prototype, or this actually went?
No, that's probably a production shoe.
That's a production shoe. I don't even know when this came out. These are unworn Jordan CP3 9s called AEX.
Yeah.
You're not going to find this on StockX or eBay. There's nobody that has these shoes. I mean, literally, we walked into Alice's Wonderland and literally have been falling. You know, it's unbelievable, the collection that he has and the pieces of history and the shoes and the technology that he was involved with. So, you know, the goal of this is going to be a 3-part series, is to get more in-depth about the early days and when Stu came to Nike up in Exeter, New Hampshire, and talk a little bit more and get more detailed. But this kind of set the stage just to see kind of some of the things that he has and what his involvement is. Because, you know, we don't ever think about, or in my opinion, we don't ever think about how the shoe was created from a technological standpoint, like how an engineer put these together. Hot off the presses. This is a Mattel Creations Paul George Hot Wheel car? What? Whoa, 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 whoa. Wait, you're hiding the good stuff. Okay.
That's fairly new, though, I think. I saw that online not too long ago. I just thought it was cool, so I bought it. Getting back to that pair of shoes, since we fooled around and we did fooled around with putting in shoes, I thought we were also doing the airbags for the Nike backpacks. And I'm fortunate. I'm actually one of the, I'll toot my own horn on this one. I'm one of the patent holders on this for the Nike Air. But since we were fooling around with the shoe, like, let's do a couple of air straps. And again, never went into production. This is probably the only backpack like it. I'm 99.9% sure of that because I did them.
And KD had his own backpack?
Yeah. I just saved this one because, you know, again, it was the ear straps and stuff like that. Another one of a patent that I'm on is the valve in the body, so I wanted to make sure.
So the valves for all of their balls.
Not all their balls, but, you know, quite a few. If we did some testing on a special airbag, you always try to make them in a size that was yours. You know, so if we did X amount of size 10s, you always did a couple extras. So,
all right, for any other brands watching, I'm a 10.5.
So, but again, that's a typical, you know, prototype testing shoe.
We're going to go through a couple of your latest or your last projects because we've seen kind of a historical arc of your career in the technologies that you're involved with. So here is a later Air Max. So what's unique about this shoe, and tell us a little bit about it.
This would have been, I think, in the late 2010-ish. This is again an ambient bag. Pressure versus non-pressure. Are you bastardizing, you know, the word Nike Air, you know, versus a Clear window or a Visi window, you know? There's debates on both sides. To me, I let the science predict. Again, Nike's got a state-of-the-art biotechnical lab, so those guys test. So they do everything that has to be done and before it goes live. So this is a project that is, again, it's my last patent, okay? It was called Folded Air. And to give you an idea, this is the same pair that I was wear testing, okay? This is the original. So this has got a thermoform pressurized airbag, and then this one is the folded airbag. This is the prototype. So this is that exact same project, Folded Air, and these are the ones I knock around in.
We've covered from the beginning 30 plus years of work.
Yeah.
30 plus years, all in the basement of the house in Brewster.
Yeah.
You know, this is history. What you're seeing right here, there's no hype here. This is someone who was passionate about what they could do, developed it, worked with the creators of Nike. It came to market, had patents on a lot of the technology. Want to thank everyone for taking the time to come here today. And, you know, this is really history. I mean, there's so many pieces I could pull and just keep speaking to, but you can go back, you know, original samples, original releases, the first Travis Scott shoe, dead stock. This is where you find history, and it's someone's basement in Brewster, Mass. So we have more for you. This is going to be taking Partners and Plugs to a next level. We'll see you.